Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I wanted to show you how I made this little kawaii peach plushie keyring. So to start off with, I took some peach coloured plush fabric, and what I did was took a black biro pen and just kind of drew out this rough kind of leaf shape. I made it kind of wider at the bottom with a more longer point at the top, and I just cut this out around a centimetre bigger than the shape that I just drew. What I then did was took this another 2 times and just kind of put this shape down on my plush fabric and just cut out so that I had about 3 of these pieces. I didn't use a pattern for this, but you can buy a pattern or something like that online. There's a lot of patterns for like peaches and stuff like that online anyway, but I didn't use one. I just kind of eyeballed it and it turned out okay. Yeah, so you just want to make 3 of these pieces in total. What you'll then want to do is put 2 pieces right sides together and just sew up one of the sides. I hand stitched mine, like you can see here, with some light pink thread, but you can glue this or machine stitch it if you want to. I just thought the easiest way for me to show you would be to hand stitch it, as I know a needle and a thread are a lot more easier to come by than sometimes fabric glue and obviously a machine. Once you get to the very top, you'll just want to tie your thread off in a knot and cut this, and then on the piece you have left over, this is going to make the 3rd side. Before attaching the 3rd side, however, you'll want to put the face on, as this will be a lot easier at this stage than putting it on once the plush is fully sewn. So to make my face, I just used the toy safety eyes that I usually use. You can use puffy paint, fabric paint, little buttons, beads, anything you have to pop a little face on. So to insert the toy safety eyes, I just cut 2 little holes into the plush. Here I didn't quite cut it deep enough, but you could just adjust that, and you'll want to pop the toy safety eyes through and just pop the washer onto the back. I did this on both of my eyes, obviously, to attach them both. Once the eyes are fully in place, you'll then want to insert a little smile, and to do this I'm just using some black thread on a needle again. I'm just sewing back and forth in a little smile pattern, but like I said before, you don't have to sew this. You can use puffy paint, fabric paint, whatever you have to make this little smile will work well. A lot of people have also suggested on plushies using little bits of felt. This might be a little bit tricky for this one as it's quite small, so you'd have to cut really small bits to get a face, but it is also possible. So once you have the face fully in place, you'll then want to take your 3rd bit and just pop it down on the opening of the other 2. Like you see here, I opened up the other 2 and then just pinned it in place where I wanted it to be. I usually don't bother pinning pins in place, but because this one was a little bit fiddly, I decided to do this so that I could sew the pieces together right, if that makes any sense. So yeah, if you don't like pinning, you don't have to, but I just did it in this case. What I then did was took the same coloured needle and thread as before, and I just sewed up the other side. I didn't sew up the other side completely, just one of them, just from bottom to top all the way along. Once I got to the top, I just tied a little knot again and cut off the excess thread. So when you go to sew the 3rd side, you'll want to leave a little gap. As you can see here, I left an inch gap from the top as I know that I'll be putting a little bit decoration on this piece, so if it turns out a little bit messy, it doesn't matter. I then went ahead and just sewed all the way to the bottom point and just tied a knot and cut off the excess once again. Once fully happy with the sewing, I then turned the shape inside out and made sure that there was no holes in my stitching, anything like that, and it was all fully secure. What I then did was took some toy stuffing and just stuffed the shape completely full with the stuffing. I added loads and loads so that my peach became really nice and chubby, and basically just kept going until the whole thing was full. If you don't want yours to be hard or anything like that, you can lightly stuff it, but I just stuffed mine to literally I couldn't get any more in there. And then what I did was just folded the bits of fabric inwards, and with the same colour thread as I've been using throughout, I just stitched up that hole. So next, to add a little bit more detail to the peach, I kind of wanted to make the little like butt indentation, if that makes any sense. So what I did was I took a brown piece of thread and just kind of like popped it into the top of the peach and halfway down the back. I then looped this around so that I was left with a nice little I don't really know what to call that, just like one really big stitch around where I wanted the indentation to be. And what I did was pull the thread really tight so it started kind of indenting the fabric, so that I was left with that little peachy kind of butt shape. I don't know how to describe that. So yeah, what I then did was just cut off the excess thread on that, played around with the fabric a little bit so it was nice and soft, and I had a little indent in the back. So what I then needed was a little leaf, so I took an offcut piece of green plush fabric and I just drew out a rough little leaf shape. I then cut this out around this, about 1/2 centimetre excess around the shape, and what I then did was kind of folded this over and just kind of sewed in all the seams so that none of the like rough edges of the leaf were showing. This was a little bit fiddly, so if you had fabric glue to do this, this will probably be better. I didn't have any on hand, so I just did it with my needle and thread and it worked out just fine. What I then did was pop this on top of the peach's head, and I just kind of like worked out where and kind of how I wanted it to sit on the head and just stitched it in place. I just did a basic stitch going through the peach plush fabric and just kind of stitching through the leaf and back down toward. I did use a green thread because you'd be able to see that more, but you can use the peach colour if that's all you have. So once the leaf was fully in place, I then just took the same green thread and just stitched on a keychain. What I did was just kind of went back and forth into the plush and into the little first loop of the keychain to secure it. I then tied lots and lots of knots so that it wouldn't come undone. So once the keychain was fully attached, my plushy keychain was then complete. Now I absolutely love how this turned out. Like, I have it here right beside me, and honestly I think it's the cutest thing that I've ever made. Like, I love little peaches, I love plushes, I love little kawaii faces, I love keyrings, and it's just everything that I love in one. Like, I honestly wish that everybody else could have one of these. Like, maybe I should make a shop and I can sell them. But obviously I'll sell them super cheap because no one wants to spend like $100 on them. I mean, I would buy it for $100, but that's besides the point. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye!